Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. Howdy folks, and welcome to the month in review for August 2025. There's not as many items to get to, but the items we have are pretty darn big. So let's dive right in, and as always, let's start with the submissions for this month's painting competition. Individual category, we have Armitage, and at first glance, this is a solid paint job. It's got some bold colors. The skin really pops out at you, but you can see there's lots of shadow and light differentiating the crevices of the muscles. You've got some nice highlights on the tabard there. The purple trim really sticks out well, and hazard stripes on the weapon. And having done an Iron Warriors army recently, hazard stripes can be a pain in the butt. So this is a very solid paint job. Nice job to Armitage. Next up, David D. And first thing I'm drawn to is the beard. Now it looks like he's using speed paint, contrast paint, something of that nature. And for some reason on the beard there, it all just settled in perfectly. The contrast with the blonde hair and the skin on the nose, it just looks fantastic. And really good job on the base as well. You almost can't tell that the part of the stone that's from the print itself from the extra bit of the base that he added on there to make the whole diorama effect there. So really nice job on this one. Eric53, also, first thing I'm drawn to is that beard. Hair, I've found, is really good if you put your base color on it and then a wash or some kind of ink on it and then go back over with the original color. You've got yourself a nice, simple hair scheme. And also, the axes. For some reason, the one on the left just looks really, really good. It's got sharp, bright edges where you'd want to see them, and yet you can still see shadow and definition and things like that. So nice job to Eric. Now, Harem Rose, there's a name that we see often in these painting competitions. I do wish the picture was a little bit lighter, or maybe he was going for just a darker theme overall, but very solid execution, nice earthy tones to it, so this guy looks like he spends a lot of time in the forest, kind of like a hunter-stalker kind of character. Jeremy Allen gives us a nice, bright orc mech, and I like how he's got the alien hive head there on the gun. I don't know if that was part of the initial file, but if it was, well played on OPRs, and if it wasn't, well played on Jeremy's part. I also like how he's done the smoke trails. Usually when I see guns or models that have the smoke contrails from bullets or something like that, it kind of turns me off on them because they're very difficult to paint and do correctly, but he's done it really well here. You see the fire getting hotter closer to the shells and then disappearing off in the smoke contrail. Plus the red and the white contrast looks really, really nice. So I think this one has a good chance of making it onto the podium. Jetmark Ganashian. I'm going to get that one wrong. Really clean, crisp paint job here. Bright purple, green, and orange. Those are three colors that are going to be tough to get to work well. But it's done beautifully. And if you look on the blade for the dagger there, you can see some non-metallic metal. You can see how the tufts, the purple feathers around the head have a really good highlight to them. I have a feeling this one just might take first place. But then again, I haven't seen the rest. But so far, this one is very well done. Maybe I spoke too soon. Natalie Kula has done a good job painting the model. It has very, very good skin tones. It's all one color, and yet it doesn't look monochrome because you've got the slightly lighter lavender on the edges of the tabard. But I think the diorama is going to sell this one. Having the bamboo roots sticking up out of the pool with the water effects, and then she's perched on top about to kick. I always made the joke when I first saw the STL, she's about to kick or she's about to cut one of the two. But I think that the best part of this model, and this is not meant to be a shot, is from her foot down. What an incredible idea, very well executed. Looks like Reaper Roll had the same kind of idea, to put this model on something very, very narrow, very tall, to show balance. Slight different approach on the painting, though. We went with stark contrast with the blue and the white. But still, both of these have shown that this model in the right kind of setup or diorama can look really nice. Subscrub. Looks like this may be one of Subscrub's first paint jobs, and major kudos to you for putting it out there for the whole world to see. Everybody starts somewhere. You still got some pretty solid painting skills here because we've got the colors on the different areas. They're not bleeding over, right? You've got the beige on the armor, you've got the skin that's white, you've got the talons are blue, the tongue is red. Like, this is definitely a paint job that I think if we keep up with it, we're going to see some really good stuff coming from him later on. Ooh, now this one's just pretty. So nice job to Taco here. Taco? Is this Mexican or Japanese? You'll have to let me know. But really clean. Look at the highlights on the skin. Look how sharp that red trim is. Really, really well done. I think this one, so now I've said this about, 3 or 4 of them. I think this one's definitely going to make the podium. Very clean, very stark, very eye-catching, but you can look close and see lots of little details, like highlights on each individual shell. There's 2 layers of highlights just on the leather straps holding those shells across his chest. So a lot of time and attention spent on this one. Architecture AI has become kind of a standard here, and we've got kind of a nifty diorama here. I do wish it was shown from maybe a couple angles, but we got alien hives jumping on HDF guys. He's trying to raise his weapon and shoot him before that, and it looks like he already got one of them. But we've got some, looks like some object source lighting with the fauna on the ground. We've got really bright colors and shadow contrast with the armor for the HDF guy, and then really, really bold, stark contrasts with the blue, the red, and the pink on the alien hive. So this one, very, very nice. And Toktemish is going for some realism with that flamethrower, and I'm willing to bet it's not coming across too well in the picture, but I think that's actually got a light bulb or some kind of illumination inside of it. It's not just painted, but I think that bad boy lights up. So really cool. I love it when I see modelers and hobbyists bring in things like that, like real lights and effects and things like that to make it look good. Plus, it's got a nice solid paint job. You've got a good solid color for the armor, metal bits. Really nice. Good job to everybody here. Now, heading over to the unit categories. First entry is Gronky Kong 64, and he's painting dwarves, near and dear to my heart. So really good, giving him kind of a grimdark, earthy, minor kind of look to him, but you have those green cloaks offering a nice stark contrast. It looks like the gun also has some effects added to it, so you can see the explosion and the bullets actually shooting out. So that's definitely been added on there. But really nice look overall, very gritty, very grimy. I like it. And there's only one other entry. So this one, Michael Coetzee, has done some cavalry here. Got some nice solid skin tones, earthy colors for it here. Let's see here. I like the way the units look overall. Nice uniformity across all of them. And let's see. Oh, we got the pet in there, of course, as well. So, big kudos to both of the people who did unit entries. It's one thing to devote an entire month to painting one model, but to devote an entire month to a whole squad, that's, well, 3 times the work, don't you know? And last of all, the legendary category. And believe it or not, there were more entries for legendary than there were for unit. But, I mean, look at this. When I saw the STL file for this, I thought 2 things. This is going to look amazing in the right hands, and there's no way I'm going to try and tackle it. And taking a look here at Eclectic Do-It-Yourself Nerd. I think I'm getting that right. Eclectic DIY Nerd. This thing is just a feast for the eyes here. You've got all kinds of bright colors. You've got what looks like some object source lighting where the flamethrower is about to barbecue the alien hive lord. You've got an amazing job on the smoke contrails coming out of the missile launcher for the HDF Titan there. And then I love how he's made the entire photo here like a bit of a montage so that you're not just having to zoom out. Look at how all the HDF guys have the muzzle flashes from where they're firing. You've got action poses like you can see in the bottom left there. This whole thing, this isn't just a legendary model. This is an entire showpiece. This is a beautiful diorama. So excellent job. And this one is no worse, but it's much sharper. I almost want to say cartoon or comic book, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as bolder colors. So that previous one was a more realistic look. This one was a more solid, stark contrast. So you look again at the flamethrowers, beautiful job on the smoke contrails, on the rockets there. Everything looks really, really good. It sticks out. It's not as gritty or as grimy, but instead, it definitely catches your eye. Moving on, Kodorgo. I'll get it right one of these days. I notice you take a look at it, you can see how you'll be able to remove each of the individual pieces from the file in order to fit them all on individual bases. I don't know if he did that or if that's part of the STL. Like I said, I never printed it up myself. Going for a much simpler scheme with the mechs. They're all just a simple black or a gunmetal. Interesting take on the contrail, though, making them the light sources at different points throughout the trail there. Being a little simpler with the flamethrower, but I know painting fire is so difficult, so no judgment there whatsoever. So far, all three of these look absolutely beautiful. And then NTJ is giving us quite the cornucopia of color. Oh my goodness. I mean, we've got the entire visible spectrum here in one diorama. And nice job on the object source lighting. Look at the rockets as they pass by the mech's head are lighting up the side of it. He's painted the heat fatigue, I don't know what you'd call that, from the flamethrower, where it's purple near the front and then fades out near the back. Excellent job on the flames, making them, white is the hottest part, gradually going to the red. Although it looks like instead of putting in that final big alien hive guy, we've kit bashed a bit here, and he's barbecuing the bushes to kind of drive out all these other aliens so that the infantry then can pick them off. So a little bit of kit bashing, a little twist on how the original STL file was meant to look, but I think pulls it off nicely. So this is going to be a tough one because there's 4 entries, but only 3 can make the podium. I'm not sure which one is going to reach the very top. I'll be very curious to see what everybody else thinks in the voting. So there are the painting submissions for this month. Beautiful jobs. These are just getting better and better every single month. And to those who are jumping in, as you saw, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to enjoy the painting. So nice job to everybody. I'm excited to see what next month brings. All right, let's get to the news. The biggest piece of news is that the new 3.5 beta for OnePageRules Army List dropped today. Well, not today, but earlier. Today when I was writing this. That today. Yeah, I know it's September 1st and technically not part of the August review, but the beta is only going to be open for 2 months. So if I don't mention it now and wait until the September monthly review, is going to be half over by then, and you won't have as much time to check out the rules, to see what they can offer, play with them a little bit, and offer your feedback. In the live stream, Tano took 2 full hours talking very, very fast, and still didn't mention all of the changes for every single army. Now, I'm hoping near the end of the beta to make a more detailed video on the changes, at least for the armies that I play the most, and my take on them overall, but I need some time to try them out first, as I'm sure the rest of you do. So, until we've had a chance to play them and offer our feedback, here are some of the major takeaways from the update. First, every army has some kind of army-wide special rule. Like for the previous edition, Robot for the Robot Legions, Undead for, well, the Undead, or Devout for the Sisters of Battle. Second, all armies will have some kind of combo ability that allows some units of the army to enhance others, kind of like the Take Aim ability for officers, allowing HDF units to get +1 to hit when shooting. Third, army specialties, usually in the form of weapons or gear, will allow units to get temporary abilities or temporary buffs. Fourth, armies will have units that can, quote-unquote, mark enemies to give friendly units a temporary bonus when attacking them. Fifth, all armies are going to get weapons and weapon profiles that are unique to that specific army and cannot be found anywhere else. Sixth, armies will have multiple aura abilities that can now be added to hero units, which means those heroes can then be added to bodyguard or other units to create some really powerful stacking combos. And then seventh, revamping magic and psychic power lists so that each army has its own unique spells and feels different rather than everyone basically having the same 6 spells just with different names. So my first reaction is to applaud the effort to make the armies feel distinct, make the game feel like it's a lot more in-depth, and that you're not just playing the same armies with a different skin. So, these new rules will add complexity, which isn't bad, but complexity can add more time to games, because players now have more things to consider when making decisions. So I'm hoping that most of the changes in the decision making are going to be made in the list building phase rather than when there's actual models and dice on the table. So we will see the game starting to take a little bit longer, but hopefully that added time will be very, very minimal. There were a couple other major changes to some core army rules that affect all armies. So for example, first of all, undead is gone as an army-wide rule. It can still be added to a hero and its unit to give them a little bit of survivability, but every model in the undead army books no longer has it. Next, rending and poison are limited to a few weapons per army list rather than being more frequently seen across multiple units in just about every army. Next, advanced tactics is gone. No more slingshotting units and getting a turn 1 charge across the entire board. This hasn't just been reduced to some specific heroes and abilities, no, it's just gone. And lastly, swarms have had a very significant change. They've been upgraded to quality 5 instead of normally being quality 6, but they have lost most of the special rules they came with, especially fearless. They were a bit too tar pit-y and were a little too good at that task for the most part. At least they were for robot legions, where those little gribblies could stick around forever. Many of them have also lost their ability to ambush. So you can still have swarms, but now they're going to function more like you would picture a swarm of bugs. You stomp on a few and the rest are going to scatter. Now, do keep in mind, all of these changes are open to player feedback. This is, after all, a beta. So if after playing a few games you've got something to say, head on over to the OPR Discord, and there's going to be a specific channel for feedback for the 3.5 beta. Now, when giving feedback, remember 2 things. Number 1, if you don't say anything, OnePageRules will assume everything is fine. So don't stay quiet if you have something you legitimately want to get out there. But number 2, don't be a whiner and gripe about absolutely everything. And closely tied to that, I'm going to add number 3. When you're making a comment, think first whether you're commenting about a bad rule or whether you just had bad rolling or, heaven forbid, you had bad tactics. Then make sure you know which one of those you're complaining about before you start writing. The next bit of news is the release of the Vampiric Undead Army book. I actually picked this one up because I have a substantial vampire army, and I wanted to see what these books have to offer. None of the previous releases, like Eternal Dynasties or Duchies of Vinci, I don't have any models for those, so I didn't really want to purchase one. But this one, I've got a big army. I'm curious to see what's in it. Now, I haven't had a chance to dive in and have only leafed through it so far, but as I expected, it's got some really great art at the very least. I also want to tip my hat to the attention and effort put into these. So, for example, as I was scrolling through, one of the pages has a basic language primer for the languages spoken by the Vampiric Undead, so that players can give units names and titles that actually adhere to the lore of the faction. I mean, there were grammatical rules in there for proper naming. Now, I don't know if the other army books do that, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to use it, but I wanted to acknowledge that it shows there's a lot of thought being put into these books. So far from the aesthetic things that I can just see by glancing through the book, looks good. Once I dive into the lore and actually read through the book, I hope to do a bit of a longer review and give my 2 bits on it. Moving on, OnePageRules held its first Mission Jam in August, allowing anybody a chance to develop and submit their own mission to become a part of OnePageRules. Now, unfortunately, yours truly made a submission, and it didn't make the winner's podium. But I had some fun doing it, and we'll probably give it a shot next time another Mission Jam comes around. Now, congrats to the winner, but we have great expectations, so don't let us down. And speaking of great expectations, there's been an update on Broken Truth. Now, I know this is almost spoken of in every single monthly review, but we only have a couple more months before it's official. So Broken Truth comes out on September 23rd, at least the GameFound campaign starts September 23rd. So Broken Truth, in case you're not aware, is a full-size starter box that includes 2 fully printed armies, along with terrain, tokens, everything you would need to play a game of OnePageRules. So you can sign up for the campaign on GameFound, but what I'm really hoping is that with the creation of this 2-player starter box, we'll start to see these in brick-and-mortar stores. Think of how much OnePageRules has spread so far just from word of mouth. Now imagine when people can walk in a store interested in picking up a game and they can see that. And if someone in the store at the time then knows a bit about OnePageRules and can say, well, yeah, this is what it is. This is how it plays. Do you want to do a demo game? I think we'll see the popularity and spread of OnePageRules absolutely skyrocket. And for our last little bit of news, I'm adding something here. Collaborations. These have been happening for a while, and I haven't mentioned them, but I think they're actually worth adding to the monthly review. So 2 new STL creators have become OPR compatible, which means that an independent STL creator has either built a custom army list that matches their models but uses OnePageRules custom army forge so that you can play their models in OnePageRules and everything's kosher. Or it means that an STL creator has created a new line of models specifically to match an existing official OnePageRules army. So if where you play, multiple players have, for example, robot legions and you don't all want to use GW Necrons, or you don't want to necessarily use the OPR robot legions, this would be an STL creator that has the models you would need, but a totally different look to them. So the very first one is Second Dynasty, who, from what I can tell, makes a ton of starship models that are inspired by ships found long ago in a galaxy far, far away, if you catch my drift. They also have some vehicles, walkers, and other things inspired by other IP that I imagine you'd recognize if you took a little peek through them. So, very limited in that. I didn't see any infantry, or at least not big squads, but if you're into war fleets, you would definitely want to check these guys out. The second creator is called Grim Prince, and they make tanks, trucks, and vehicles with a very historic look and feel to them. For those of you who really like historical games like Bolt Action, this would be how you take a human defense force army, but make it with a World War II theme to it. Great crossover for OnePageRules and historical gaming. So with that, that's the news. It's a bit sparse, but given that first bit of news with the beta, it makes sense that OPR kind of had its hands full. And that will bring us to the end of the month in review for August. So I'm very curious to see what everybody thinks about the new beta releases, so make sure you play some games, test out a bunch of different armies, make some lists that are unorthodox so that you can try out the rules and really push them to their limits. I'll see you all next time, and until then, keep your dice on the table.